Hey guys, so I got two reviews I gotta do today, and I want to get these done as soon as possible because I gotta be up at 3 in the morning to go to work. So let's get these done. Let's get right to it. The first movie I saw today was Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Now, growing up, I was a pretty big fan of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I really enjoyed those cartoons, and obviously with Rocky Bullwinkle, I remember Mr. Peabody and Sherman having a big integral part of the cartoon series. I don't vividly remember all their cartoons. I remember them being, from what I do remember, I remember them being pretty funny. I mean, I haven't ever since I've grown up. I haven't really watched many Mr. Peabody and Sherman cartoons back. I have watched some Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons, but I haven't watched much of Mr. Peabody and Sherman. So, like I said, I don't vividly remember everything that they did and all the comedy stuff they did. I do remember that it was the basis of it is that it's a talking dog and a boy, and they go on time traveling adventures. That's pretty much all I remember from it. Um, and when I heard they were making a movie out of this, I was like, really? I would think they would make a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, even though I know they have made a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie and it has sucked. I was actually surprised they didn't do like a new cartoon movie of Rocky and Bullwinkle instead of Mr. Peabody and Sherman. And I saw when I got the trailers for this movie. I only got one trailer, and that was in front of the Lego movie. I thought it looked all right. I thought it looked like it was gonna be pretty funny. And the reviews have been pretty decent for this movie. At one point, actually, it was at 90%. About a month ago, actually, it got released in Great Britain a month ago, and it got well received over there. And it's currently standing like at 78%, which is still really good. And it seems to be getting decent reviews. So now that I've seen it, I could say, you know what? This movie is a pretty fun little flick. It's really cute and adorable. It has some humor for the adults. It's not just like a kiddie flick. It has some really adult humor. I mean, I heard a lot of people and a lot of adults in the audience laughing about more than the kids were, which is always a good sign. I mean, hell, the parents are the ones that are paying the tickets, so they should have at least find some entertainment out of it. And it sounded like the parents were, and I kind of was laughing along with them. This movie was really cute and entertaining. And honestly, one of the good things that could come out of this is that maybe kids will learn a little bit about history, even though it presents history in a little silly way. I mean, you could at least learn some history out of this. That's one positive that could come out of this movie. I really like Ty Burrell as Mr. Peabody. I thought he was really funny. He definitely played that character very well. He does come off cocky and arrogant, but honestly, Mr. Peabody has all rights to be that kind of person, that kind of personality. Because honestly, without Mr. Peabody, Sherman probably would be dead. Because Sherman, while he is a likable character, he is kind of incompetent, um, and it definitely comes across. And that was something that was in the cartoons, if I remember correctly. That Sherman was always kind of a little incompetent, while Mr. Peabody was the really smart, intelligent one that got him out of sticky situations. So that's kind of true to the original cartoon. So that's cool. But yeah, Mr. Peabody is. I thought Ty Burrell was really good. I can't really put my finger on anything that I've seen Ty Burrell in. I know he's going to be in the new Muppets movie, but anybody could help me out with that. But go ahead. The kid who played Sherman, I thought Sherman was fine. At first, I thought Sherman was going to be really obnoxious and was going to be really hard to sit through. There was another character which I'll talk about that I thought that about early on, and Sherman I grew to like him more and more, mainly because of the interactions with him and Mr. Peabody. I thought the relationship was believable. I thought it was really cute. The father-son relationship, even if it was with a dog and a boy. That was one of my favorite parts of this movie, by the way. Like the fact that some court at one point, a judge rules that Mr. Peabody will be a fitting parent for Sherman, and he lets Mr. Peabody. The judge lets Mr. Peabody adopt Sherman, and his ruling is no joke. This is what the ruling is that if a boy can adopt a dog, why can't a dog adopt a boy? I guess what the fuck? Why not? I was like, all right, one of those. All right, I'll buy it. It's one of those movies, yeah. And the boy has an adopted or has a dog as a parent. That's what you kind of get with this movie. Also, one character I was worried about but grew on me, like I said, was the character Penny, who was played by Ariel Winter. I think that girl from Modern Family. She, you know what she reminded me of early on in the movie? She reminded me of Angelica from Rugrats. And the fact that she was a fucking bitch. Like, at the beginning of this, I'm like, I wanted to cold cock her. I know she's a little girl, but fuck, I wanted to cold cock her. I wanted Mr. Sherman to cold cock her at some point. Like, what happens at the beginning of this movie is that Sherman goes to his first day of school and is dropped off by Mr. Peabody, and Penny notices him being dropped off by Mr. Peabody, and also Sherman outsmarts her in class, and she doesn't like that, so she ends up going into the cafeteria and making fun of him because he is being raised by a dog, and that what she says is that because he's being raised by a dog, that means he is a dog, and he keeps calling him a dog, and rightfully so, Sherman bites her. Good for him. I was like, good for him. I was kind of like, good for him. What the hell? I hated that bitch. I was like, but her character does become likable later on. Luckily, this is a movie that it got better as it got along. I will say that. Like at first, I was worried, but it got better as it moved along. Once you got through the introductions and introducing all these characters and got into the time traveling part, it got better as it moved along. This movie also has some really weird humor about this movie. There's including some of the weird adult humor. Like at one point, that most my two favorite jokes that I can think off the top of my head were one, when they're in Troy, and they're in the Trojan horse with these soldiers, and the leader, the captain of these soldiers, is talking about all the old soldiers that have fought with them, and he says, "Oh God, don't let me talk about Oedipus." He says, "Man, oh man," I said, "I hate being around his family during the holidays. It can be really awkward." That was funny. That line was funny. I made me laugh. Or the line where at one point, Mr. Peabody, this is gonna be hard to explain, but there's a rule that Mr. Peabody tells Sherman that he can't go back to a time where he exists, because there'll be two versions of themselves of him, and because of that, if the two of them interact, there might be a rip in the space-time continuum. Yeah, this movie gets a little complicated for a kids movie. You talk about the space-time continuum and like the effects of time travel. It does. It actually is. It's actually weird that this movie does what a lot of movies that involve time travel don't do, and that is talk about the effects or like the complications of the stuff that they're doing. Like I said, the fact that there'll be two versions of themselves if they travel back to the time they exist. And at one point, Sherman does, and Mr. Peabody ends up having to come back also. and they both run into a versions of them, or a past version of themselves, and Mr. Peabody's first line as he's walking out says, "Sherman, I gotta stop you from touching yourself." So nonchalantly he says that line. That made me laugh. I was like, wow. I apparently was it was a line that there was no way that was not put in there to make you not snicker. Also, this movie has some weird obsession with having poop innuendos. Like, at one point, they're in ancient Egypt, and they're in the tomb. I forget what's the Pharaoh's tomb. I don't know what tomb it is. It's the one that it's like shaped like a cat. You know what I'm talking about, the tomb, all right? And they're in this tomb, and Mr. Peabody and Sherman are trying to escape, and they end up going on this boat, and they go down a chute, and as they're going down the chute, they cut to a outside shot of this tomb, and you see Mr. Peabody and Sherman fly out the butt of the tomb, and you're like, really? And it's like sitting there going, really? Or the one part where the Trojan army is getting out a Trojan horse, and they come out the butt end of the horse, and they're like, so it looks like little turds are popping right out. I'm like, really? Really, movie? What's your obsession with poop all of a sudden? I mean, there is a lot of childish humor in this movie, like lines like Sherman going, why are you gonna, because Penny at one point is gonna be married to King Tut, and she's like, why do you want to marry King Tut? He when his last name rhymes with butt. That's the kind of humor you get. You get that kind of humor too, like the childish, stupid humor. Or there's a lot of puns in this movie, like Mr. Peabody and Sherman are in the tomb in Egypt, and Mr. Or Sherman touches like the hand of a mummy, and the mummy's hand falls off, and Mr. Peabody goes, well, that was disarming. Like, there's like humor like that does make you roll your eyes, and a lot of that, some of the times those jokes can work, and sometimes they don't. And that is one negative, I guess I can give it, is that sometimes the jokes don't work. But there are other times that the jokes do really work and are really funny. I like the really out there humor that sometimes this movie has. Also, oh yeah, how could I forget? Like, there's some violent shit in this movie. Like at the beginning when they go back to the French Revolution, and Mr. Peabody literally almost gets his head chopped off because he's being associated with Marie Antoinette. They just kind of like gloss over the fact that Marie Antoinette gets her head chopped off, kind of. But yeah, at one point almost Mr. Peabody gets his head chopped off. And that was kind of graphic, but the most graphic fucking thing. This is gonna be one of the most graphic things I've seen in a kids movie in a while. Penny goes back, like I said, and is about to get married to King Tut. Mr. Peabody and Sherman go back to ancient Egypt to save her, so she don't get married to King Tut. And Mr. Peabody tells her, you should not get married to King Tut. And she's like, why shouldn't I? And Mr. Peabody turns to one of the King Tut's men, and he says, tell her what happens if King Tut dies. And he says, well, if King Tut dies, and the servant opens a scroll, and he says, if King Tut dies, we gotta take Penny and sacrifice her and disembowel her and pull out her organs and stuff like that. And they show the scroll, and they show like a picture of a girl looks like Penny having her organs ripped out of her. Like, there's blood and everything. You're like, I'm just sitting there like, I'm just like, wow, movie. It's like, that was pretty violent. I like to at least they dressed something like that. Like I said, those are some memorable jokes in the movie that again, this movie, I don't want to spoil too much of it. I'm just going over memorable jokes that I liked in this movie. I thought this movie was entertaining. It was harmless. I don't think it was as good as like the Lego movie. Definitely Lego movie's better, but this movie was entertaining and fun. Um, I recommend it. If you're a fan of Mr. Peabody and Sherman, I'm sure you're gonna like it. I guarantee a lot of people, a lot of kids, won't even know this is based off a cartoon that was made back in the '60s. Wasn't it the '60s or '70s or something like that? I guarantee nobody will even know about that. That is from this generation. Um, but yeah, I recommend it. Also, I don't know how well this movie's gonna do. I mean, it's DreamWorks has had a like a weird variety of like a lot of hit and misses over the last few years. I mean, they had the Croods last year, and then they had Turbo, and Turbo did horribly. And even before the Croods, right before the Croods, they had what was it? Rise of the Guardians, and that did horribly to the point that DreamWorks had to be bought out by 20th Century Fox, which is interesting. Also, this movie was directed. I forgot to mention this. This movie was directed by the guy who made The Lion King, which was kind of cool. And Lion King is my favorite animated film of all time. And that was one of the things that sold me on this movie. I was like, I want the guy has had a mixed bag of films over the years. I mean, he also has made Stuart Little, which was I remember being pretty good, and Haunted Mansion, which wasn't very good. So he's had a mixed bag, and this is one of his better movies in a while. I think this is one of his first movies in a while he's made. So yeah, I recommend Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Oh, I guess I get the trailers real quick. The trailers I got for this movie, I got a lot of new trailers for this movie. At the How to Train Your Dragon 2 trailer, which that was the first time I got it. Looks really fun. I liked the movie. I love the first movie. I love the first movie a lot. And this one looks like it'll be a lot of fun, and looks like it has the same cool effects like the first one did, and that makes you feel like you're flying along with the characters. It looks really cool. The animation looks great in this film. Also, anybody find that weird that you find out the Hiccup's mom is alive in this one, even though in the first movie, they say that she died or something like that, to the point that he has a helmet made out of one of her breastplates or something like that. You remember that? I was like, are they gonna address that? Because they didn't address that in the trailer. Like, he doesn't act shocked that she's dead, or she's alive or anything. But I don't know if they'll. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Also got the Paddington Bear movie, or Paddington, that's what it's going to be called, teaser trailer. Whatever. I barely remember Paddington Bear, but I remember that being pretty good series of books. But I remember I wasn't a big fan of that growing up, but I remember it. But like I said, I remember the character, but I never read the books. I got I know this is gonna sound so racist, but I got the ghetto version of Annie, as it literally is. It's Annie, but starring majority of black people. It is, seriously. It's the girl from the Beast of the Southern Wild playing Annie. I forgot this movie was being made, but it looks alright. I didn't really ever watch Annie. Really weird Cameron Diaz playing like the villain. Cameron Diaz looks like she might be a little annoying in this movie, but I might be wrong. It didn't look all that bad. It's got like Jamie Foxx and Rose Byrne, and who else is in that movie? I forget who else is in that movie. But it looked alright. But I was like, yay, the black version of Annie. Alright, whatever. I guess I'm trying to think. There's something else. I got the Box Trolls trailer, which I've got a lot. Keep getting new ones every so often, and that looks cute. I don't know what's going on in that trailer, but it looks cute. I guess that's it. But I'll be back with my review for the second movie.